I'm Kimberly.
Standing on the balcony of my $30 million Malibu mansion, sipping my coffee as I watch the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean, it's hard to believe how far I've come. 3 years ago, I was kicked out of my father's house with just a suitcase and $200 to my name, having absolutely nowhere to go. But now, here I am, living in this beachfront paradise. Before I tell you how I went from being homeless to owning this amazing place, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button to join me on this journey of turning pain into power. I grew up in a small town in Texas. My family lived in a simple two-story house on a quiet street. My father, Robert, was a strict and ambitious man. He worked as a lawyer, but he always felt like he should have achieved more. This unfulfilled ambition made him a very critical and demanding person. Every little thing I did was under his microscope. If I got a B on a test, he'd say I was slacking off. If I came home a few minutes late, he'd lecture me about responsibility. My mother, Emily, was a kind-hearted woman. She used to be a librarian, but after my older brother, Ryan, was born, my father convinced her to stay at home. She was the peacemaker in the family, always trying to smooth things over when my father got angry. But over the years, I could see her spirit being slowly crushed by my father's control. Ryan was the golden child. He was good at sports, got excellent grades, and followed my father's every word. He went to business school just like my father wanted and landed a high-paying job at a big firm right after graduation. My father was always bragging about him, while I was constantly being compared unfavorably. I discovered my love for technology when I was 13. My grandfather, Henry, gave me an old laptop for my birthday. My father was furious, saying it would distract me from my studies. But my grandfather stood up for me, saying, "Kimberly has a mind of her own, Robert. Let her explore." That laptop became my escape. I spent hours teaching myself to code, building simple websites, and experimenting with different programming languages. In high school, I maintained a high GPA with ease, but my father still thought I wasn't working hard enough. He believed that natural talent without hard work was a waste. When I turned 17, I completed my first real app, a tool that helps students manage their study schedules. I was so excited to show it to my family at dinner. My mother was impressed, saying it was very clever. Ryan just shrugged it off, saying it was okay. And my father? He barely looked up from his plate and said, "Is this why your history grade dropped to a B+?" Just then, Ryan got a call about a promotion at work. My father completely forgot about my app and started celebrating Ryan's success. That night, I promised myself that one day, I'd build something so great that my father couldn't ignore it. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school, saving every penny I earned. I knew that college would be my chance to get away from my father's overbearing expectations. When I got accepted into Stanford University with a scholarship for computer science, I was over the moon. But my father was disappointed. He said, "Kimberly, Stanford is a great school, but you should have gone for business. That's where the real money is." I stood my ground and said, "Dad, I want to build things with technology." He just shook his head and said, "You're making a big mistake." College was tough. Even with the scholarship, I still had to work part-time to cover my expenses. I got a job at the campus IT center and took on freelance web design projects. It was a crazy schedule, but I was determined to succeed. My roommate, Lisa, became my best friend. She came from a wealthy family in New York, and her parents were very supportive of her dreams. She couldn't believe how my father treated me. One night after I told her about a particularly harsh phone call from my father, she said, "Your dad is being so unfair, Kimberly. You're amazing, and he just can't see it." In my sophomore year, Lisa and I came up with the idea for an app called Event Saver. It was designed to help students find last-minute deals on event tickets. We spent months developing it, working late into the night. During Thanksgiving break of my junior year, I went home to show my family the working prototype. I was hoping that my father would finally recognize my potential. The dinner started well, but when I showed them the app, my father's reaction was crushing. He said, "It's just a gimmick. How many apps like this do you think are out there?" You're wasting your time. My mother tried to defend me, saying it sounded like a good idea, but my father ignored her. I was so humiliated that I didn't touch my dessert. The next day, I went back to school early, vowing not to share my ideas with my family again until I had real success. Back at school, I threw myself into my studies and the app development. A professor, Dr. Johnson, noticed my work and invited me to join a research project. He was very encouraging and believed in my abilities. Under his guidance, I learned a lot and got an internship at a tech startup. But Event Saver didn't take off as we hoped. Despite our best efforts, we couldn't get enough users. After a few months, we had to shut it down. I was heartbroken, but Lisa said, "We learned a lot, Kimberly. This is just a step towards something bigger." I graduated from Stanford with top honors. Dr. Johnson helped me get interviews at several tech companies, and I had a few job offers. But then the recession hit. 2 of the companies rescinded their offers, and the third one offered a very low salary. With my savings running out and student loans to pay, I had no choice but to move back home. Moving back into my childhood bedroom felt like a failure. My father immediately imposed strict rules on me, like a curfew and chore assignments. He treated me like I was still a teenager, ignoring the fact that I had just graduated from a top-tier university. Over time, the tension at home grew. My father would constantly criticize my career choices. One day, I told him that I was working on a new security app for small businesses. He scoffed and said, "Small businesses don't need fancy security apps. You're just chasing pipe dreams." I tried to explain my concept, but he wouldn't listen. One evening, I came home late because I was debugging a problem with my app. My father was waiting for me in the living room. He started yelling at me about how I was disrespecting the family and wasting my life. I finally snapped. I told him that my app was getting interest from investors and that I was building something real. He got even angrier and said, "If you're so confident, then get out of my house and don't come back." I was in shock, but at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. I knew that I couldn't live under his control anymore. I packed my suitcase, said goodbye to my mother, and left. My car broke down a few blocks away, and I was left stranded with no place to go. I called Lisa, and she immediately sent me money for a plane ticket to California. When I arrived in California, I was determined to start over. I got a job at a cybersecurity firm, thanks to Dr. Johnson's recommendation. I lived in a tiny, shared apartment, but it was mine. I established a strict budget and spent my nights and weekends working on my security app, which I named Safe Shield. 6 months later, I met a user, experienced designer named Mark at a tech meetup. He was very interested in Safe Shield and offered to help me improve the user interface. We decided to partner up and start looking for investors. It was a long and difficult process, with many rejections. But finally, after 9 months, a small angel investor named Sarah agreed to invest $150,000 in our company. With the funding, Mark and I quit our jobs and focused on Safe Shield full-time. We worked incredibly hard for the next 18 months. Our beta launch was a success, and we started getting more and more customers. A well-known tech blogger reviewed our app and gave it a great rating. After that, our business took off. We started getting acquisition offers. The first one was from a big company called Cybertech for $2 million. But we knew that Safe Shield had more potential, so we declined. Over time, more offers came in, and we kept growing our business. 3 years after being kicked out of my father's house, the biggest player in the industry, Secure Global, offered to acquire Safe Shield for $75 million. After careful consideration, we accepted the offer. After all the deductions, I walked away with over $30 million. I bought this mansion in Malibu. At first, it felt like a dream, but I also felt lost. I had achieved financial success, but I still had a lot of emotional wounds from my past. A few months ago, I received an email from my father. He just said, "Congratulations on your success. Maybe we can talk when you're in town." I was conflicted. Part of me wanted to ignore him, but another part wanted closure. I decided to meet him for dinner. When I saw my parents again, it was strange. My father looked older and more tired. During dinner, he tried to take credit for my success, saying that his tough love had made me who I am. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told him that I had succeeded in spite of him, not because of him. I reminded him of the night he kicked me out and how hard I had to work on my own. He was silent for a long time and then said it was a misunderstanding. I told him that it was a defining moment for me, and I had learned what kind of parent I never wanted to be. After that confrontation, I had a lot of emotional aftershocks. But slowly, I started to heal. I've learned that true wealth isn't about money or possessions. It's about the relationships that support and celebrate who you really are. I've also learned that rejection can be a powerful motivator, pushing you to find your own path and prove your worth. So, if you're going through a tough time, remember that your worth isn't determined by those who can't see your value. Keep pushing forward, and you'll find your way to something better.